Star Trek Voyager, Voyager, oh Star Trek Voyager, Voyager, Voyager. So that is a little. Every time I watch the theme song to Voyager, I'd always sing along. I've done that for almost 2 decades now. Yet this is the first time I've ever mentioned this on my channel, and to be frank, is because I was a bit too embarrassed. But finally I did it. I've seen other YouTube videos of people doing theme songs. I was like, damn it, I need to do my Voyager theme song, because I think that's the one theme song I always put lyrics to, but it's just Star Trek Voyager repeated over and over again. Anyway, welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's How I Would Have Written Star Trek Voyager videos. So I've done videos in the past for like my fan fiction of how I would have wrote something. I did it for, I think, Game of Thrones season 7, and then I did a whole series of videos, very detailed series of videos on Lost, which was how I would write a reboot of Lost. More specifically, and there I like plotted out like every single episode and every character beat, so that's why it was like a series of like 8 videos that were like almost an hour long each. So that was a long series. I'm going to be more concise here, because here with Voyager, and this is something I was just thinking about, that there's different like major beats I would do for Voyager. So I'm not going to get into any of the ground details. I'm not going to spell out every episode for you. I'm just going to assume that the show went the way it did when they actually aired it. However, I'm going to, except for the major differences that I'm going to say in the show as we go, because I think a lot of people pretty much agree that Voyager had a lot of potential, but really failed to live up to that full potential. And there was a lot of reasons for that, mainly studio interference, Rick Berman, blah blah blah. This video is not here for me to get into any of that, but it's been widely agreed upon that Voyager could have been better, and a lot of people are frustrated when they're rewatching Voyager because they see the avenues in which they should have went but didn't go. But so I'm going to spell them out. Of course, this is all my opinion. This is what I would have done. So I'm titling this video How I Would Have Written Voyager. So this is like it's like a thought experiment exercise, fan fiction sort of thing. It's like pretending that I'm Q and I can go back in time and be the god creator of Voyager. It's kind of different than the Lost thing, which is about wanting a reboot. I don't really want a reboot of Voyager, but this is how I think it should have been done. So I'm gonna just go through the major beats of what I would have changed. So let's get started. So the first thing I would have changed is, number 1, I would have had Chakotay and the Maquis take 5 episodes in order to assimilate to the crew. I think, and this is something Ronald D. Moore, in fact, said himself, that one of the worst mistakes this show made was by the end of the pilot episode, Chakotay was in full Starfleet uniform and a commander and a first officer, and he called that a major mistake. And I agree, and most everyone else agrees, that was a huge mistake that they shouldn't have done. So what I would have done is, by the end of the first episode, have Janeway agree for Chakotay to be her first officer, but have it be a very controversial decision and a very tenuous decision, and not have the Maquis in Starfleet uniform, not even Chakotay in Starfleet uniforms. Yes, who would kind of serve us as a way to be like a sort of wedding, broker between 2 warring factions to bring peace to them, that sort of thing, how they marry off the princess or whatever. It's kind of that same similar thing, except it's not a marriage, it's a captain first officer relationship, but it's done in order to try to assimilate the Maquis crew into Starfleet, but it doesn't go smoothly. And we got a little bit of it at the start of the show. We got Tuvok kind of being a dick to Chakotay in the first couple episodes. We had some of the Maquis, grumbling or whatever throughout season 1. But I wasn't really tackled enough. I think they ruined it. They ruined their entire premise. The entire premise is, oh, there's this renegade ship of Maquis who are renegades against the Federation, and they have to work together with Starfleet. And by making them instantly assimilated into the crew by the end of the first episode, completely destroys the premise. It's like, why bother doing it? So what I would have done, I wouldn't have taken all season like some people were suggesting. I would just at least 5 or 6 episodes before they actually got into Starfleet uniforms. And even once they did, it took them a while to adjust. Like the stuff they did towards the end of the season with like those Maquis members who were having a hard time adjusting. Put that at the start of the episode and have it be all the Maquis, not just those few 4 guys. And stuff like, in third season we got the holodeck simulation of the Chakotay doing a mutiny. Not have that happen exactly, because you can't turn Chakotay into the villain, but something similar to this. Something where it feels like the Maquis are going to take over the ship, but it doesn't actually happen, but tensions are really high, and then have it all work out by the end, where Chakotay, and Tuvok play him being more jealous. And don't tell me Vulcans aren't jealous. They totally are, especially Tuvok. Have him be more jealous. Have him make a case to Janeway saying, I should be your first officer. There's no reason why you should have someone who's a disgraced outlaw be your first officer when I'm more qualified. Have there be more tension between them. Have Chakotay have to earn his right as first officer, improve himself. So that's number 1. So the next thing that I would change, and this is a minor thing, I'm just going to throw it out there because I think it's important. Number 2, give the Doctor a fucking name. For Christ's sake. Come on. It's, at the start of the episode, start of the show, TV Guide was actually calling him Dr. Zimmerman because that was the original plan. And so I kept waiting for them to start calling him Dr. Zimmerman, but it never freaking happened. And instead, he just remained the Doctor, and he would have like a name for like 1 episode and never have a name. And the show ends with him still not having a name, and they flash forward to 25 years in the future, and he chooses the name Joe. And I'm sorry, Paris calling out how stupid that is doesn't make it any better. So give him a freaking name by the end of the first season. That's definitely what I would do. Maybe Zimmerman. It doesn't have to be that. If you don't like it, I don't care. Just he needs a name. Anyway, number 3. Third thing I would change about Voyager is in the episode. I'm going to select a specific episode now. The second season episode Alliances, where Voyager has the idea of making an alliance with the sect of the Kazon, and they meet with different Kazon, and then they meet with the Trave, and then they realize it's terrible, but then they decide, let's not do alliances at all, which doesn't actually solve the pre-existing issue, and I think was kind of a cop-out. So number 3, I would have Voyager make an alliance with a couple of Kazon sects. Not the Nistrum, which was the one that Maj Kula and Seska were involved with, so they would still be at odds because they would actually make an alliance with the Nistrum's enemies, which would make, and so it would, in some ways it would put them at more risk, but in other ways they have Kazon backup, and then they have to deal. So you have like this 5-episode arc, definitely what I would do, where you have Voyager trying to navigate this alliance with this Kazon sect, and how it's the pros and cons of it, and then at the end of the arc they have a huge falling out with the Kazon sect, and they end up splitting up and going their separate ways, and that's what leads them to the finale, where the Nistrum is able to gather all these other Kazon because the sects that were helping them were like, well, screw you then, maybe something over the Prime Directive or something like that. It could be interesting. So that's what I would do. That's my number 3. So number 4 of what I would do, and this is a big one, and I'm going to lump a couple things together in number 4 because they all have to do with the episode Basics Part 2. What I would do, first of all, not kill Seska. Not kill Seska. And also is related to this, not reveal that Seska's child is not Chakotay's son. It is Chakotay's son. I think that angers me every time I watch that episode, because it's obvious from season 2 they were totally planning on making that baby Chakotay's son. But then when they fired Michael Piller, they went, oh, that's not Chakotay's son. They just retconned the shit out of it in order to get them off the show as soon as possible, which I think was a huge mistake. Now, one thing you might be thinking, Mark, are you saying that we should have kept the Kazon as the villain in season 3 and kept them Maj Kola and all those people who were boring as fuck that nobody liked? You're saying that we should keep them around longer? No! That is not what I said. I did not say keep the Kazon. I said keep Seska. And here's how I would divide that. At the end of Basics Part 2, it plays out pretty much the same way it did originally, and they defeat the Kazon. Tom Paris and the Talaxians come on board, and they retake Voyager, yay, and Suter sacrifices himself and all that jazz. Difference is, though, Seska does not die. Instead, she was mortally wounded, and the Kazon and Maj Kola simply abandon her and the child, which stays on board, and just left in there because Maj Kola. But the reason why Maj Kola took the child is because he found out it was his. But of course, in my version, it's not fucking his. It's Chakotay's. So he leaves the child and he leaves Seska behind, and the Voyager crew come on. They save Seska's life and keep her on board as a prisoner. So she stays on board as a reoccurring character who's in the brig, who every once in a while tries to scheme and work her way and help the crew, and sometimes they're forced to go to her for help when she's very antagonistic and she tries to deceive them at every turn. What a great missed opportunity. Like, it was so stupid of them to not take full advantages of this. And Martha Hackett, I think her name was, the actress who played her, was so good at this character. It was easily the best villain that the show ever had. And for them to, by the way, they just told her the day of shooting that they were killing her character off. Such a major mistake. Such a huge mistake. I would say get rid of the Kazon, absolutely. Their Kazon are done. We're gone. Away from the Kazon. But she stays on board the ship, and Chakotay's son stays on board the ship, and he is forced to be a fucking father. And then you have the dynamic with his evil mother being on board as well. What a great character arc, but instead they just make Chakotay a forgettable character. So, so that, I think that is a way to make season 3 way better than it was, because it wasn't good the way it was. Alright, so number 5, fifth thing that I would change about Voyager. Get rid of Neelix instead of Kes. I mean, come on. Why would you get rid of Kes? And when Neelix is right there, staring him in his face with his annoying hedgehog face, he is. Most people consider him the most annoying character in the show. He doesn't do anything worth any merit for the rest of the show, so you lose absolutely nothing by getting rid of him. Kes, on the other hand, now granted, season 3 kind of ruined her character. In my version of season 3, that wouldn't happen, though. But they wouldn't sexualize her the way that they did in season 3, and we wouldn't be doing any, Tom Paris relationship inferences like in the future version where she's married to Tom Paris and Harry Kim's married to her daughter. No, none of that shit's happening in my version. No implication of Tom Paris and Kes at all. But we keep Kes and we explore her telepathic, telekinetic abilities. She starts to become more advanced. She gets better at it. She's able to move shit with her mind, and we have some episodes about that. We have explore Tuvok as her mentor more. Go more into that detail. And Tom Paris as the doctor's medical assistant was a dumb thing. I'm getting rid of that. Kes stays. Neelix goes. That's the law. So I'm just jumping on here real quick because there's one thing I did forget to mention, is that Neelix And when I said he's getting written off the show, I didn't say how. And so you might think I'm going to kill the poor guy off. I'm not going to do that. Don't worry. I'm not going to give him the Tasha Yar treatment. The little hedgehog will be fine. What I am going to do is what the show actually did in season 7 is do the same thing with the with that episode. What's it called? Homeward or Homebound or whatever the hell that episode's called. I do the same thing where he meets a colony of Talaxians. He meets this Talaxian woman who he falls in love with and wants to raise a child with. Same thing's going to happen. It's going to make a lot more sense, though, in my version, because it'll be a lot closer to Ocampan space, or Talaxian space, sorry, than they were in the actual Voyager, because the actual Voyager, they were literally like 60 years away from Talaxia at like maximum warp or whatever, which made zero sense. So it'll make it at least a little bit more sense. They'll still be far away from Talaxia, but not that far. But anyway, so yeah, that is how Neelix is going to live happily ever after, so don't worry about him. Alright, so next, number 6. Sixth thing I would do. Anyone familiar with my channel will not be shocked at all by me saying this, but Tom Paris and B'Elanna is not happening. They had zero chemistry. There was zero build up to them. They just flung them together out of nowhere, and they stuck with them together all the way to the end, even though they never worked as a couple. Instead, you go with the more obvious solution, which is B'Elanna Torres and Harry Kim. Come on, they were right there. They had such good chemistry from the very first pilot episode. You play off that chemistry, that natural chemistry that already existed, and trying to shove two characters who had nothing to do with each other together. You play off the natural chemistry. You put B'Elanna Torres with Harry Kim, and plus Tom Paris worked a lot better as the loner, as the ladies' man, as the single guy. You keep him that way. Why change that? And why Harry Kim is naturally the relationship guy. So why are you going to make Harry Kim single and Tom Paris married? That makes zero sense. No. You put Harry Kim with B'Elanna, and this relationship will last all the way to the end of the season show when they get married, instead of the Tom Paris bullshit. And their relationship would have worked 1 billion times better. And would have been way less annoying, by the way. It would have really developed Harry characters more, made him a bit more grown up, and it just would have been better all along. And that leads into my number 7. Seventh thing I would change, and now to be clear, do this during season 4. Promote Harry Kim! For fuck's sake! This whole Brennan Braga saying, oh, somebody has to be the ensign, is complete and utter bullshit. It made absolutely zero sense. All these other crew members died, and there's plenty of room for advancement. Who else are they going to promote to make Harry Kim a goddamn lieutenant junior grade, for fuck's sake already. I mean, it only took Boimler 4 seasons to do it, and Harry Kim's better than Boimler, I'm sorry. So yeah, that's the easy thing. Give Harry Kim promotion. Anyway, we'll get into my number 8, which is make the Year of Hell an 8-part serialized storyline that ends out season 4. Now, one of the original ideas was to make Year of Hell last the entire season 4. And to be honest, like after seeing season 3 of Enterprise, as much as I love it, they dragged that story out for way too long, and they put a lot of filler episodes that had nothing to do with it. So you don't need a 26 episode arc lasting an entire season for the Year of Hell. But you need more than a 2-parter. And I think it was a major mistake for them to just do a 2-parter. Now, they were originally going to do that, and they abandoned it to do Scorpion, which I'm all for because Scorpion's awesome. And by the way, I'm keeping 7 of 9. She's still there. She's there with Kes. She's there with Seska, which would be, you can have some really interesting interplay with 7 of 9 and Seska, where 7 of 9 would actually take Seska more seriously because she also kind of hates Starfleet. That would be awesome. And then you do an 8-episode arc of Year Hell where you get more into the details than the 2-parter did. In fact, I would make this less about... I don't know if I would even have Anorex in his time ship, because one thing is clear, one major difference I'm making to the Year of Hell is no erasing. There's no time, oh, everything's erased and everything's okay. No, everything stays. And we're doing stuff like Voyager getting completely fucked up, being destroyed, and having to abandon ship, and then we get these different storylines of characters like Seska who go off and meet different people, and they have other characters go off and meet different people, and they all meet back up eventually and find everyone, and the ship stays damaged like that, and you have to have storylines in the next season about how we're going to repair the ship, how we're going to get supplies. They have to make alliances with other aliens, and this would be way more interesting than the episodic bullshit that they did in season 5, which was mostly boring. Instead, you have to have them deal with the aftermath of them having to get supplies, having to gain alliances, having to repair the ship, and maybe you have Anorex or something like it who's the main enemy, but the solution, and I wouldn't make it so he's erasing entire species from existence. Maybe he's doing some other time travel shenanigans bullshit, but nothing that major. I would sort of reduce the scope a bit, and maybe the end, how they solve the Year of Hell, is by defeating him, but not by erasing time. The time stays, and also the one other thing I'm going to add in here is that Seska sacrifices herself. She actually learns the value of the crew, and she, as I said, she voluntarily comes back to Voyager when she could have just fucked off, and it comes in a situation where she needs to sacrifice herself in order to kill Anorex of the time ship, and she does it. So we're writing off Seska now because having her on board for 2 seasons is long enough. Write her off here with an 8-episode arc to end season 4. So, I think I'm up to number 9. Ninth thing, let's see, things are cumulatively they're getting different. The butterfly effect. My changes are starting to spring into a totally different show, which is fine because the later seasons were boring and not that good. So anyway, alright, number 9 is during season 5 we're going to do the episode The Void, but we're going to make it a 3-parter. We're going to spend more time, get into more detail of the specific alliances that Janeway makes, the different aliens she meets, actually have her form her new coalition, and once they get out of the Void, they actually keep that alliance. They travel with these new aliens for a bit of a time, have some sort of ongoing storylines, and and as I said, season 5 is going to be less of the episodic, boring BS that it was originally. We're not going to have the Malon, by the way. No Malon. We'll have maybe bring back the Herosian a bit more because they were a bit more interesting. Have them when they're still somewhat near their space and not on the other side of the galaxy, and bring them all the way back to season 7. That's stupid. Alright, so next we'll get to my number 10, which is do not use the Borg as much, and do not introduce the Borg Queen into the show. Period. End of sentence. Full stop. No Borg Queen. Nada. And we're going to use the Borg less, because this is something I was talking about recently when I did a live stream on the 2-parter Scorpion, which is an amazing 2-parter. 2 of the best episodes of the entire franchise, in my opinion. And the reason why is because they used the Borg correctly. And later, because they didn't make the Borg trying to assimilate Earth and trying to get humans and trying to get Voyager. That wasn't the focus, and that's why those episodes works. Later, when they brought in the Borg Queen and she acted like a James Bond villain and came up with these convoluted bullshit plots to try to take over Earth, that's when it went downhill. And plus, just in general, the Borg work a lot better when they're used less, because they lose their scariness, the way that they were not scary in the later seasons of Voyager. They came off as cartoony and laughable because they used them too much, and Voyager should have been destroyed by them. How are you going to say the Borg are these invincible, unstoppable foes when they can't even destroy one goddamn ship? So, we're not going to use the Borg. We're not going to have the Borg Queen at all. We're not going to have these Borg episodes like Dark Frontier or Unimatrix Zero or any of that bullshit. We're going to keep some episodes of the Borg, some of the minor ones that dealt with more character stories like Raven, Drone, Survival Instincts. All that can stay because those worked, but just don't use them as much. Mainly the Borg character stuff that focuses on 709, but none of the Borg Queen trying to take over Earth, grandiose 2-parter bullshit. None. Anyway, then Now we're going to get to the major change. The huge major change that I know some people are going to have issues with. But I'm sticking with my guns. Number 11. Hold on, it's like this. 11 is Voyager gets home at the end of season 5. So the finale of season 5 is going to be the episode Timeless. And they're actually going to get home. It's not going to end with Harry Kim being like, oh, we got to send them back to the Delta Quadrant in order to save everyone's life. No, instead, they go all the fucking way home. Now, they actually floated the idea of getting Voyager home to Earth for the final 2 seasons, but they ultimately decided against that. I think that was a mistake. I think they definitely should have done that, because most of the episodes that take place in season 6 and 7 could have just as easily taken place in the Alpha Quadrant. Like, there was nothing unique about them being trapped in the Delta Quadrant. That storyline was stretched thin. It didn't need to be there anymore. And also, and here's the major point, is that way you can spend the whole next season with them being back in the Alpha Quadrant and showing what happens when they try to get back, when they get back, how Tom Paris reconciles with his father, how 7 of 9 integrates into Alpha Quadrant life, and how the Doctor does. All these great opportunities that the show just cut off by just cutting straight to credits at the Voyager gets home, which was the biggest FU I've ever seen a show give to its audience. Ever. And, they try to hide this by showing this possible future in 25 years in the future, which was dumb. And they tried to, have do the storyline with them talking to Earth in the last 2 seasons, which is dumb. Don't have them talk to Earth on the view screen. Have them be at Earth. I mean, might as well. They're calling Earth like they're on the phone doing these Skype calls all the time. Just send them home, for fuck's sake. And I think Timeless would have been the perfect episode to do that in. So yeah, so that's my number 11, a major one. Send them back to Earth. So number 12, hold on, let me do it again. There we go. Is going to be season 6 is going to be about them assimilating back to Earth, back in the Alpha Quadrant. And as I said, so we're going to get like 5-6 parters that are all going to connect, where the crew is going to get split up. The Voyager is going to be like temporarily decommissioned, so you can have all these characters go off in their separate ways. Like Kes is going to go with Tuvok because she doesn't really know what to do with herself, and he's going to sort of be a mentor to her and sort of introduce her to his family and Vulcan and stuff like that. You're going to have 7 of 9, there be huge trials in Starfleet trying to figure out what to do with her. Some people want to arrest her and shit, and then you sort of have the Maquis crew members be officially made part of Starfleet, and that also be a thing, and some people wanting to arrest them as well, and Janeway going to bat for them. And you have the Doctor, who has to fight for his right to stay an individual, to keep the mobile emitter, to be recognized as a full individual. So that's another sort of fight that Janeway would be involved with. You have Harry Kim, who now gets promoted to full lieutenant upon getting back, and he's offered a promotion as a second officer on another ship, and he's like, oh, what a great opportunity for me, and but he doesn't want to leave B'Elanna because they're still in the relationship, and in Tom Paris, you have him reconcile with his father in person. In fact, you can even do that stupid storyline with the Doctor and Zimmerman that they did in season 6, but have it in person here in the Alpha Quadrant and have an 8-episode arc at the start of season 6 that deals with it. But the arc ends with Janeway going to bat and convincing Starfleet to give them Voyager back and give them the crew back, and saying that they're best together and they can help explore the Alpha Quadrant more with what they've learned from being in the Delta Quadrant. So they all get reunited on Voyager. So the rest of the season, you go have those episodic episodes. You have Blink of an Eye. You have I don't know, memorial. You have all these episodes could have very easily taken place in the Alpha Quadrant. As I said, you have these great episodes, and you have them exploring, except they're in the Alpha Quadrant. Now, season 6 is going to end with Kes, sort of using her. She gets so advanced in the powers. And by the way, Kes is like 6-7 years old, so she's supposed to be like in her 70s and her 80s, but she's not aging. She still looks like she's in her 30s. And at first they're like, ooh, what the hell is going on? Oh, I forgot to do my numbers thing. This is number 13. Is Kes is going to ascend. So, so Kes is still looking like she's in it. That's because she's come attuned. It's like those other Ocampans we met in season 2 that were like way older, but even though they looked younger. And so she's going to use her abilities in order to learn to extend the Ocampan's life, and she's going to, it's similar to what they did with her in the gift, so this is going to be her send-off, but it's a bit different. She's going to become a bit more powerful and a bit more intentional, rather than, oh, it's just happening and I can't stop it, no, what do I do, like it was in the gifts. It's going to be more intentional, like she's going to intentionally ascend, and her whole goal is to actually travel, use her new powers to sort of travel back to Ocampa and help them all extend their lives so they don't live for just 9 years anymore, and sort of, use the Force or whatever in order to, help her people. And that will be her big send-off at the end of season 6. Okay, so now we come to my number 14, which in fact, is actually an earlier. I forgot to say this earlier, so it should have been like number 11 or something. But I'm doing it a bit late, number 14. This would happen during the 5th season before Voyager got back to the Alpha Quadrant. This is having the Doctor and 7 of 9 hook up. So there's the episode, Someone to Watch Over Me, and I would do this episode exactly the same. Nothing changes except for the ending. The ending has the Doctor go to 7 of 9 and reveals that he has feelings for her, and she's like, you are attracted to me. You are romantically interested in me. And the Doctor's like, yay, what do you think? Yeah. And she's like, I will, give it some thought or whatever. And then it turns out she's just a hologram. And then the real 7 of 9 has no idea the Doctor has feelings for her, and he's too shy and afraid to say it to her. His bullshit on that reveal instead. And this is something that pissed not just me off, but a lot of fans. A lot of fans were shipping the Doctor and 7 of 9 for the rest of the show, and they particularly, once again, the producers of the show went, fuck you to all the fans who wanted these two to get together. I am not so mean to the fans as Rick Berman apparently is. I will appreciate the fans who want the Doctor and 7 of 9 together. So in my version of this episode, that is not a hologram that she's talking to, but the real McCoy. Not Dr. McCoy, but 7 of 9. And they form of romance, and they get into and that would be great. So we can use this for the rest of season 5 and then season 6, especially once they get back to the Alpha Quadrant, where both the Doctor and 7 of 9 are having to prove themselves, and they can sort of bounce off of each other and play the relationship. Absolutely, they should have done it from the beginning, 1000%. Of course, this also fucks with Picard, because then you got to think of 7 of 9 reappears, but the Doctor's not around, so they would have to explain it. But fuck Picard, I hate that show anyway. I hate it, it's okay. But anyway, that was actually, further back in season 5, but that's my number 14. So, now we'll get to the big one, my number 15, which is the big finale, the series finale. And what will I do for the big series finale? Well, not going to have the Borg. And it's, as I said, the Borg, maybe they'll have an episode in season 7 where the Borg appear. Maybe even make it a 2-parter thingy where they appear in the Alpha Quadrant and 7 of 9 uses her, abilities to defeat them or whatever. You can do that, that's fine. But not as the series finale. The series finale is going to do what any great series finale should do, and that is get to its roots, get to the heart of the beginnings of the show, and honor the beginnings of the show, and honor everything that the show became to get it. So in other words, the exact opposite of what Endgame did. So what the finale is going to be is I'm also going to base this off of an existing episode. It is going to be Shattered. That will be the series finale. But, I'm going to stretch it out, make it a 2-hour episode. I'm going to alter the deal a bit. Pray I don't alter it any further. Sorry. I'm going to alter the episode a bit and stretch it out, make it a bit more epic. And we're going to bring back Seska. We're going to bring back Neelix. We're going to bring back, maybe some other characters like Hogan or whatnot. Make it honor the origins of the Voyager and what came before it. And that's something that the original Shattered did. So that's why I'm using that as the series finale. But as I said, changing it a bit to make it a bit more epic. And one of the major changes that I'm going to make to it is once they fix the problem of the ship being shattered in time and having all these different time frames, the ship of Voyager is going to come back together as one, and it's going to come back into the present, the season 7 timeline, where it should be taking place, but not where it should be taking place. For some technobabble bullshit shenanigans, who cares what the details are, they're going to end up back in the Delta Quadrant, right at the Ocampa homeworld, right where this all began. And so they're going to be stuck there. They're going to meet up with Cass again to find out that she did in fact save the Ocampans. They now live full humans' lifespan lives out to their actual 80s. But there's going to be a problem. Now, I haven't thought through what the problem is. I don't really care. That's not really the point. Some creative writers can come up with it. I don't care what the hell it is. But the problem is going to be where the Ocampans are at risk of total annihilation, and so Voyager then is put in a situation where they have to choose between saving the Ocampans and getting back to the Alpha Quadrant. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, Mark, that sounds familiar. Isn't that what they did in the first episode, the pilot episode, Caretaker? And I'm like, yes! That is the whole point! We're going to recreate that dilemma again, getting back to its roots and honoring what came before Voyager, and we're going to recreate this dilemma. However, this time, Janeway's going to redeem herself and do what she could never do before, what she failed to do the first time, even though some people say it's a plot hole and she should have just put a timer in the device that destroyed the Caretaker array, but let's not get into that, it doesn't matter. She is going to do what she failed to do the first time, and she's going to have her cake and eat it too. She's going to find a way to save the Ocampans and get Voyager back to the Alpha Quadrant. And what a beautiful way to end the series. What a way that honors everything that happened. It has nothing to do with the fucking Borg, because the Borg is not what Voyager is about. It has to do with them recreating a situation that got them there. And I think it would be interesting, too, in my version, where they actually got back to the Alpha Quadrant. That way you can spend several seasons of them being back to the Alpha Quadrant, and so you can end this episode with them getting back to the Alpha Quadrant, and it won't feel like such a big-ass fucking middle finger, because you already saw what happened when they got back to the Alpha Quadrant. But here it would also add a different dynamic of them being stuck there again, and the feeling of, oh, we accomplished this, we finally got home, and then all of a sudden they find themselves right back where they started. Oh fuck. But it plays out like a normal TNG episode where they get flung, but they come back in the same episode, and I think that would work. I think it would be a very good way to honor the show and honor everything, and it would be a redemption, a great, satisfying, gratifying for the fans redemption story for Janeway, who felt guilty of all this years of trapping her crew in the Alpha Quadrant, where she's able to redeem herself and make the right decision and be a decision that both saves the Ocampa people and gets Voyager back. to the Delta Quadrant. Maybe even I'm going to throw in some Kazons in this episode, just for nostalgia's sake. What the hell? Maybe even some Vidians. But anyway, so the episode will end once they're back in the Alpha Quadrant with them all going their separate ways, the same way like Deep Space Nine ended, where Janeway's going to be promoted to Admiral so she can be the Admiral over Nemesis. So Chakotay's going to take over as Captain of Voyager. Tom Paris is going to be his first officer. Harry Kim is going to get promoted to Lieutenant Commander and First Officer. Yeah, I'm promoting the fuck out of Harry Kim. Deal with it. The show should have. And he's going to become First Officer of some minor ship that nobody cares about, but still, he's going to become a first officer, and B'Elanna Torres is going to transfer over to that ship with him because she had his baby in the finale, just like, in the finale of that crap piece of shit finale we got where she had Tom Paris's baby. In this good finale, she's going to have Harry Kim's baby. And, so they're going to go off to the other ship. Kess is going to live happily ever after with the Ocampans. 7 of 9 is actually going to go to Starfleet Academy. Now, she's a full adult. She has been experienced, so she's not going to do like a full 4-year course. She's maybe going to do 1 year or half year because she already has experience. It's more of learning to work within the rules of Starfleet is mainly what they're going to focus on with her. But she's going to go to Academy, become a Starfleet officer. And Tuvok is, he's going to get promoted to work at it, maybe being an instructor at the academy. He's going to do something cool as well. So it's going to end with everyone going off and doing their thing. And and I think that would be a beautiful way to end the show. I think it worked for Deep Space Nine. It can definitely work here. So that is it. That is done. My 15 things that I would do to change Star Trek Voyager, or how I think it should have been done, how I would have done it in my sort of fan servicey or fan fiction headcanon sort of way. So in other words, these are the mistakes I think Voyager made by not doing these things. I think had they done these things, the show would have actually turned out way better and more people would like it today. My opinion. Now, you may disagree. You may think, oh, Mark, this is actually shit. What they did is better than your version. And that's fine. And you can go ahead and voice those comments in the comment section. I'll be happy to hear it. And maybe you agreed with some things, but not other things. And maybe you think some things I didn't talk about should have been done differently. Put them all in the comment section below. I absolutely would love to hear about it. And I would love to hear if you think my version's better. Because honestly, I think a lot of people would. That's, I could be wrong. But I think this is way better than what they did. But that's just my humble opinion. Anyway, so that is it for how I would write Star Trek Voyager. So be sure to check out my channel. You might think it's weird that I decided to do a Voyager episode video now because I'm in the middle of covering Star Trek Next Generation, just about to start season 3. So if you're joining me for the first time, it would be a perfect place to join because it's when the show actually gets good. But the reason why I decided to do Voyager, because I didn't want to wait like 2 or 3 years, however long it's going to be before I actually get to Voyager. I had these ideas swimming in my head, and I just wanted to go ahead and throw them out there. And it's good to change things up a bit so we're not constantly bogged down with Next Generation on my channel. Anyway, but be sure to check out my channel as I continue to cover Next Generation and do many more videos on Star Trek and many other shows as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.